Hi, my name is Ansley Fowler, and this is my presentation for my nutrition intervention entitled F&V for Me. So the primary audience that I selected were elementary age males with poor nutrition habits, and there's uh, several different health issues associated with a lower intake of fruit and vegetables. One of the more obvious and prevalent would be high obesity rates. The logical connection here with a lower intake of fruits and vegetables is that less nutritious foods are taking their places. So sugary foods and drinks would be one of the main culprits of that. This particular primary audience was of special interest to myself because I have a son in this age group who himself often makes poor nutrition choices. So this was an important one for me. So looking at the needs assessment, I conducted a focus group interview and I had 10 questions and I selected three 9-year-old males at the local elementary school. These were active and seemingly in good health young men, and I felt like I received pretty valid feedback from them. I know all three of the young men personally, so I felt that there was a level of comfort there, which helped me get valid answers to the questions that I was asking them, and they did a pretty good job of being open with me during that time. So the health behavior theoretical model that I chose for this particular intervention was the self-determination theory. And there's a model that we'll look at more closely, but the three main components here are autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And then there's two secondary areas here, which are intrinsic and extrinsic rewards. And as we take a look at the model, you can see here in the center on the menu, as it is in this cafeteria setting, the self-determination theory. And the three main ones, the first one here, we have autonomy. We have, which is feeling that they're in control as they make these choices that are on the menu. On the left side, we have relatedness, when the students sitting together, feeling connected. And then competence here at the cash register, believing in their ability to budget money and make those financial decisions. And then we also have the secondary levels of the model or the theory. The intrinsic rewards here has cake and some other sweets here as the extrinsic reward, disassociated with the actual goal itself. And then in the top, intrinsic rewards, the rays of sunshine coming in. The idea there was to reflect the inner feelings of the primary audience as they accomplish their goal. The goal of this intervention was pretty straightforward. I was trying to increase the intake of fruits and vegetables by elementary age males, roughly 9 to 11-year-old males. This could be, I think, extrapolated out to females as well, but to narrow the primary audience, I chose just to take a look at males. So looking at the 4 lessons and the teaching plans here, the first one entitled Fruit and Veggie on My Table. So the teaching objective was to identify numerous fruits and vegetables. Just simple identification was one of the goals here. And in looking at the learning activities, the first one for this particular lesson was that students would be shown a variety of fruits and vegetables, not necessarily well-known vegetables, and using an interactive platform named Blookit. And the students would play a game essentially and assess their knowledge of these fruits and vegetables. Second, students would look at or would choose one of the fruits and vegetables from that quiz or from that Blookit, and then they would be given a research guide to look at some different questions to guide them in researching these in particular fruits or vegetables, that they had the health benefits and that sort of thing as well. And then for the final activity before they did the post-test for that lesson, the students would go to the school greenhouse for an interactive lesson on planting, and they would choose from a variety of seeds there to plant and label. And this is one of 3 trips they would make to the greenhouse over the course of the 4 lessons. The second activity was similar in time, 45 minutes also. And the objective here would be to assess the benefits from the increase of those fruits and vegetables. And so the first learning activity for this one, the students would compete in a quick game of Quizlet, another online platform. And this interactive game would have various fruits and vegetables that they were introduced to in the previous lesson, which would hopefully activate some knowledge that they had previously learned and serve as a review for us for this particular lesson. Students would work individually to complete a list of 10 fruit and vegetables, and this was really the main theme that ran through this intervention, was trying to get students to try these 10 different ones, or these 10 different fruits and vegetables of their choosing. And they would also be able to choose from 3 different rewards if they were able to complete that checklist. And the 3 rewards were, one was extra recess at school, and the other 2 were monetary gift cards, one for Walmart and one for Amazon, but of $15. And then the final activity for lesson 2, the students would go back to the greenhouse, and then they would check the progress of their plant. And they would basically get a mini lesson there on the parts of the seed thus far of what had occurred in their plant up to that point. And they would work to chart the growth of that plant in the greenhouse. The third lesson, the objective there was create a plan for future learning about other healthy food choices, not just fruits and vegetables, but that was obviously the focus, and the various benefits from those foods. So the first activity there, students would work with a partner, and they would choose one of the fruits and vegetables that they had researched previously. Together, they would draw and illustrate and then cut out the food that they had chosen. And this would be used for the final lesson. So the instructor would collect those for the last lesson there. The second activity would see actually a guest speaker come in, and this would be, in this particular plan, an NFL athlete. And they would speak to students about the importance of healthy choices, how they made healthy choices, and hopefully, influence students to make those choices and see how that impacts them down the road. And this particular athlete's success would be a story of that. And then finally, for lesson 3, the students would pair off with another student to review their 10 fruit and vegetable list, basically check in and see how they had been accomplishing that thus far. The instructor would also make their way around the classroom to see, remind students they had one more lesson and see where they were on that checklist. And then the last lesson, the objective there would be to connect the entire journey of the vegetable from the seed to their plate. And this lesson would see the final trip to the greenhouse, a kind of culminating activity for that. But to start, students would be given their laminated food choices that they had illustrated and cut out from the week before. And they would go to the front where there was an outline of the human body and put that on the part of the body that food benefited, and then explain their choice. The second one there, the students would play a game of Kahoot, another online platform, and they would basically cover information over the entire course, all 4 lessons that the students had learned up to that point. And then, as I mentioned, the third lesson, the students would go to the greenhouse and they would get to harvest that fruit or vegetable that they had grown when they planted the first lesson. And then they'll be able to actually take that home with them. So that was the final activity for the lessons. Evaluation plan. So some process measures that had in place here would completion percentage of the checklist would be one. Completion percentage of the post-program evaluation that would be given to the students. Student attendance during the school day, that would help with that. And then content knowledge of the instructor was another important one. The outcomes, the short-term outcome, one of these would be to have the primary audience to have 10 servings of different fruits and vegetables as a short-term goal. Our intermediate goal there would be to increase fruit and vegetable intake as a result of the program. And then a future goal The long-term goal would be to lower obesity rates and hopefully blood pressure readings. And this would be something that would need to be, done over a long period of time to really evaluate the impact of the intervention at that level. Finally, the budget. These are the best estimates that I could think of here. So for personnel, 2 instructors will be given a $200 supplement to teach the 4 courses, which I had budgeted for $400. The plant, soil, pots for about 100 students. Those supplies, I estimated about $7 a student, so about $700 there. Classroom supplies for the markers, scissors, paper, the things they would do in the classroom, about $150. There should be no direct equipment cost for this intervention. A little bit of travel for the NFL athlete, the guest speaker, about $500, depending on where they're coming from. And then the $15 gift cards for 100 students. Potentially, if every student chose a gift card, would be about $1,500. So the total budget for this intervention came in around $3,200. And here's a look at the references that were used for the research for this intervention. And that wraps it up. Thank you very much.